The small isles on the west coast of the Scottish Highlands are another classic sea kayaking destination I visited in 2023, consisting of 5 separate islands: Canna, Sanday, Rum, Eigg and Muck, each of which with its own character, but all have the common theme of having a very committing remote and rugged coastline, fantastic cliffs and caves, with relatively few but stunningly beautiful landing places and beaches which have amazing views. There is a high potential for spotting wildlife of all sorts in this area. There are strong tides around the headlands and in the sounds, and all are fully exposed to swell and weather systems, so careful planning and settled conditions are essential for a successful trip to these islands. The choice of routes is endless, from island hopping to full circumnavigation if time and weather permits. I opted for a full figure-of-8 circumnavigation of all of these islands over 2 separate trips. So for the first of these trips, the plan was to take the ferry over to Rum, then do a full circumnavigation of Rum, Canna and Sanday. We also popped over to Eigg for one night to make up a classic 6-day trip. So we waited for a suitable weather window and then set off for the long drive to Mallaig, where I was meeting Trevor early the next day. Stopping on the outskirts of Mallaig, the view over to Rum and Eigg was superb. Then a night in the back of the car at Mallaig. Early next morning I met up with Trevor and we set about packing the boats. Once packed, I trundled down Mallaig High Street and onto the ferry terminal. After just a short wait, we were boarding the ferry. I personally found all this great fun. There's something exciting about starting a trip with a ferry crossing, although on this particular day the conditions would have been ideal to paddle over. We were soon sailing for the 1 hour 20-minute crossing to Kinloch on Rum, with fine views of Eigg, Rum and off to our right the Skye Coolins. Rum's Kinloch Pier, and soon we were disembarking. As the ferry left, we were getting our paddling gear on. We had both opted for dry suits. Well, you know what the Scottish weather's like. It never stays nice for more than a few hours at a time. We were soon on the water, heading anti-clockwise into the late afternoon sunshine. We passed a couple of suitable looking camp spots, but were keen to get a few more miles in, so we headed on to our pre-planned stop at Kilmorey. The beach, camp area and views were super, and just as important, there was a good supply of firewood as well. There were a few midges about, so we ate on the beach where there was a slight breeze to keep them at bay. The oyster catchers here were relentless, and they were probably very unhappy with our intrusion on their beach. Later on, time for a fire, and Trevor performed the single match fire starting routine. It's always entertaining.
Good fire, that's got a lot.
A nice view, a sunset, a fire, a glass or two of whiskey, and the midges weren't bothering us. This trip had been planned, allowing for plenty of time to relax and enjoy the camp, as well as the paddling. What a super first day it had been. The bar for the rest of the trip had been set very high. Our GPS tracked day 1. Day 2. Another sunny start and breakfast with fine view of the Coolins. Then a leisurely pack and we were on the water. Up ahead a clear view towards Canna and Sanday, today's planned destination. Before long, we reached the wreck of the French trawler Jack Ibry II, which ran aground in heavy seas on 31st of January 2011 while heading to Mallaig. The crew of 14 were all lifted to safety by the Stornoway Coast Guard helicopter. The place had a very benign feeling about it today. However, it must have felt very hostile on that January night. After exploring the wreck, we pushed on along the rugged coast, with our destination Sanday and Canna ahead of us, getting bigger all the time. A very nice sea cave to explore. A nice natural arch just before we stopped at the very beautiful Girdale Bay for a snack. After a quick look in the nice bothy, we took the opportunity to keep our water supply topped up from the very clean looking stream. We then headed off across the Sound of Canna, a 3-kilometre crossing. Conditions were somewhat calm. This area is noted for sightings of whales and dolphins, and while conditions were perfect for this today, we were disappointed to see nothing other than a few puffins. A 2 to 3 knot tide was running off the point of Sanday, slightly assisting our progress. Looking back towards Rum and onto the south side of Sanday, heading west. The south side of Sanday was interesting, with many volcanic rock formations and a nice cave. We continued clockwise round Sanday with Canna coming into view ahead. Canna and Sanday are only separated by a narrow channel with a bridge connecting the two. After paddling through this for completion, we headed west again along the south coast of Canna towards Tarbert Bay, our planned camp spot. A very hot and sunny Tarbert Bay with a nice beach, camp area and super views across to Rum, and again plenty of driftwood for a fire. Temperatures were up in the high 20s again today. We were so pleased we had worn our dry suits, but then again we knew this type of weather up here couldn't last. After a brew, I had a walk over to the north side of the island. Then later, our meal on the beach, followed by that all-important fire and of course some whiskey.
Excellent. Yeah, up and down all the time. Down, off, up and down, up and down.
Day 2 had fully delivered. This trip was shaping up to be a classic. Our GPS track for day 2. Day 3. Today was a bit cooler with a southeasterly breeze building. I had breakfast by the tent, Trevor had his on the beach. The ubiquitous oyster catchers were a bit noisy again this morning, but it's a noise I never tire of. By the time we packed up and were ready to go, the breeze was stiffening and I was almost pleased I had the dry suit on today. So we set off heading southwest, clockwise round Canna. Today's plan was to complete the circumnavigation of Canna and then camp on Sanday and head back to Rum the next day. As we rounded the western tip of Canna, everything felt very relaxing. However, in different weather and tide states, this area would be very inhospitable. Heading along the northern side, a nice cave. We stopped to stretch our legs and have a snack. We are on the sheltered side of the island now. Everything was very calm, and we suspected the wind had also dropped as well. We later learned that a relatively short distance away, on Skye and in the Fort William area, there had been severe thunderstorms and flooding. It seemed we had dodged some very bad weather. The views opening up before us were super. We knew this area would be spectacular, and we weren't disappointed. We slowed the pace and just soaked up the views and the atmosphere. Another nice cave to explore, which was full of jellyfish. There was a lot of bird life along these cliffs: puffins, razorbills, guillemots and cormorants. Towards the eastern tip of Canna and the Eigg stack, around the eastern side, an impressive ruins of the Castle Croghan Moor, a rare surviving example of a 16th century Hebridean stronghold. We attempted to climb up to it, but the grass bank was very steep and treacherously slippy in our paddling shoes. So we headed on along the eastern side of Canna. Conditions had turned extremely calm, so we made a last-minute decision to make the most of these conditions and cross over to Rum to camp on Gaerdil Bothy rather than camp on Sanday as planned. So we set off across the glassy sound of Canna. The view was stunning, though disappointingly no whale or dolphin sightings again. We explored the other natural arch at Gaerdil Bay, this one on the south side. pitched the tents in a very nice spot close to the bothy, though the midges were starting to gather, so we had a cuppa on the shingle beach. Unfortunately, there was no driftwood to be found for a fire. After I cooled down with a dip in the stream, it was fantastically refreshing and not something the weather's normally good enough to encourage on these trips. Then, following our change of plan today, it was time to consult the maps and develop a new plan before an evening walk to find the fort and subterranean tunnels marked on the OS map. The local wildlife seemed quite interested in us, both the goats and the midges. We found the site of the fort, but not the tunnels. However, the view back to Sanday and Canna made the walk worthwhile. Later we opted to eat in the very nice bothy as the midges were active. After food, we attempted to sit on the rocks and enjoy the setting sun, the view, and have a glass or two of whiskey, but again the midges found us, so we retreated to the midge-free bothy. Well, that was another super day, the super weather, paddling, camp spot. This trip was living up to expectations. Day 3 GPS track. For the next part of this trip, check out the part 2 video, where we continue down the stunning west coast of Rum. We popped over to Eigg for a night, before returning to Kilmorey on Rum to catch the ferry.